Hi everyone, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. Welcome to my Christmas series.
Merry Christmas!
For this craft, you're going to need 2 of those lights and 4 of those little arch windows. Any of the arch windows will work for this. And I'm just removing all the packaging. When you take that little sign off, there is some sticky glue that's really hard, but it comes right off when you apply heat, and a blow dryer will work for that. And then I just used a little scraper that I got at Dollar Tree, and I just lifted it off. You can see how easy it is. It happened in seconds, so super easy to remove. Took a little tissue, wiped the rest off, and then you'll be good to go. Next, I'm taking some hot glue. It is on high heat right now, and I'm going to go ahead and glue the 2 together upside down. That glue is Sure Bonder glue. It is very strong. It does claim to glue together plastic, glass, wood, etc. So that is a very good glue for this kind of craft. Next, I'm taking some cardstock, and I'm going to go ahead and put some reinforcement on the back of these. Again, not adding any weight because we have a seam there that's vulnerable. We're just keeping it nice and light. And then I'm adding some spackling in to fill in these little grooves. Now I'm using some Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. It's just black paint, so any black paint will work for this, and you're just going to cover up that seam, the spackling. So you cover that up and make it black again. And then I'm going to apply some white paint. I'm using Apple Barrel White acrylic paint, and I'm going to create old Barnwood. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before in my videos because it's so easy to do. If you want to accomplish old Barnwood, all it is a black base and white paint dry brushed on, really soft like this with a chip brush, and you'll get this beautiful Barnwood look, which, you know, it's another look for faux wood. I love this look. I'm also turning the brush the same direction as the spackling so that it helps disguise that seam there even more when you turn it sideways, and I like it to kind of look rustic and in, you know, different directions. For this particular craft, I think it looks really nice. There are a lot of nooks and crannies on these. You have to go in between each window, but when you're all done, they're beautiful. Now, I did take those downstairs and spray them with the Mod Podge clear sealer. You have to, because it will chip off. It was acrylic paint. And this is the next day. I have these little gold screws, but I'm showing you that on either end of these arches, you have these little screws right here, and you only need to leave one hanger on because you're going to hang it on the wall, so you need one hanger. But you absolutely can steal one screw from each of the back of these. You don't have to use separate screws. It's just I have these little gold screws, so I thought, why not? So I'm just pushing through that sharp little instrument, screwdriver, whatever you want to use. I think the first time I used a screwdriver, second time I used a sharp instrument right here. I puncture a little hole through the rubber piece that came with the lights, and then I put it through to mark where I was going to screw. And by the way, I was thinking, oh no, the screws won't go through. This is hard plastic. It went in like butter. You could do this if you have arthritis. Like, this is so easy to get the screws in. You really do have to screw those pieces down right there because obviously you're going to take the lights in and out to turn them off, even though there's timers, and you're also going to need to change them out sometimes, so you want those to be a permanent fixture. I went ahead and painted the screws black, then I went ahead and put some white paint on to get them to match as close as possible to the rest of the paint job. Of course, when you buy these candles, whether you buy them at the Dollar Tree or Walmart, the gold at the bottom always looks really cheap to me, so for my taste, I want to go ahead and antique these up a little bit and make them look more like there's an antique gold on them. And the easy hack to do that is just to dry brush. Well, you're dry brushing here with dry tissue. It's not a wipe, it's dry tissue, and you're just rubbing black paint all over it. I use the chalk paint by Waverly, but again, you can just use black paint. And then I showed you the difference once it's done. Next, I'm going to take some of the antiquing wax by Folklore. You can use any antiquing wax, and I'm using one of those little Doppler sponges, and I'm just brushing it on here to, I guess, make it so the candles aren't so loud and help disguise that they're plastic a little bit. And also it goes with the rest of the craft because it looks a little distressed, I guess. And next I'm going to apply Mod Podge. Now for this, you do need to dab your Mod Podge on because you will rub the paint off if you try to brush it, because the paint, you know, the surface is just too slick. You could try sanding it, but just to be safe, you just dab on the Mod Podge. It's no big deal, and it actually adds a little bit of texture to the metal and makes it look more real too, so it's kind of a win-win situation on that one. You dry it thoroughly, and then next you go ahead and do the Mod Podge on the candle. With that one, I was able to brush up and down without rubbing the wax off. It rubbed off a little tiny bit, but it wasn't so bad that I had to dab. And I'm going to go ahead and dry those. I will say the Mod Podge left streaks on the plastic that made it look more like melted wax. It came out really good. Next, I'm taking some pine that I got from Amazon, and the link is down below my description box. Anytime I mention something, check the description box because I do try to remember to put what I'm using down there if it's coming from somewhere else other than the Dollar Tree for you guys. So check down below there if you're curious. And the berries are from the Dollar Tree. The ticking stripe ribbon is from Amazon. I'm going to go ahead and glue it into loops, cut the edges as you saw there, take some of the Dollar Tree twine, tie it up, and then make like little swags, I guess, for the bottom of these. Now I do want to change these out with the seasons, so I'm going to go ahead and just tie these on. I'm not going to glue them so that I can take them off. Also, you don't have to put candles in those little rubber holders. I mean, for all year round, I'm going to keep these on my wall all year round, and I'm going to just put like a bouquet of boxwood in there, dried flowers. Use your imagination because you absolutely can stick anything you want inside those little holders, and it's a beautiful wall decor piece. So here I go. I'm just tying it on the bottom. It's that simple. I did have to tie it tighter. You do have to get it on there really tight so it doesn't wiggle around, but it came up super. One of my sweet viewers came on during my last Christmas shopping video at the Dollar Tree and told me that these candles are duds. They take AA batteries and they don't fit. And I thought, oh, she was confused. She was mistaken. She was right. I did all this work and I have to remake them, you guys. I'm just going to go grab some at Walmart. But this is a recall item at the Dollar Tree. Warning, warning, the batteries do not fit. I tried using smaller batteries, but I absolutely love the way these came out. For this project, you're going to grab one of the Dollar Tree little toddler books that have like cardboard pages and your favorite prints, whatever you want, and a paperback book of some kind. You can do this with a big hardcover book, but I'm going to show you a smaller version. And for me, since I make a lot of stuff, this is easier to store, and I just have more space to decorate with it. Easy to store, and it came up absolutely gorgeous. So you start off by tearing the paperback book apart. You're just going to take it off in little sections, and I found it's better to start on one end, flip the book around, and then do the other end to get a nice clean tear. These little Dollar Tree books come with 3 pages, and I only needed 2, so I'm going to cut one out to use it as a template for what we're going to do next. So I'm using it for a template, and I'm just cutting the pages. I did find, unfortunately, even when I chose a really small bundle, the pages still slip. So I had a lot of evening to do and, cutting to make everything even. I chose to use the edge of the pages as the part I did not cut because I wanted those nice and smooth. So I'm cutting everywhere else, and as you can see, I ended up putting those little pink clips on to hold everything nice and tight so I can get a very clean edge. We will end up making a new the binding of the book, we will end up making a new makeshift one for this little project. I am using some of the Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I'm just going to paint this book so that the imagery doesn't bleed through. I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to glue everything down, so I thought I'll start with just painting this, and I gave it 2 coats. So I'm using apple barrel paint in the color Burnt Umber, and I'm just going to give the front cover of this book and the back cover 1 coat of this paint. You can use any darker paint you want, but I'm going to be using school glue today to get the crackle effect. I've never done this. I've heard of it, I've seen it, and I decided to use the cheapest school glue I could find just to push my limits a little bit to see if it worked. So I got this glue at Dollar General for $1, and I did notice, if anyone's going to ask me what the difference is between Crackle Medium that you buy on Amazon for I think it's about $12 or $13. And school glue. I did notice the school glue was kind of bubbling up and running, so I had to dry it, as you saw, to stop that. Just a little bit, not a lot, but I had to dry it enough to make it stop kind of shrinking on the surface. And then I just took apple barrel acrylic paint this time instead of chalk paint. I usually use chalk paint, and it was in the color Antique Parchment, which is very similar to the plaster color that I use from Waverly Chalk Paint, and I started blow drying. So the paint was, or rather the glue was not soaking wet when I did it. I dried it just to the point where it stopped shrinking on the surface. So maybe, I mean, if you felt it with your finger, it would have been a little sticky. And then I put my acrylic paint down and it came up absolutely gorgeous. You definitely do not need to buy crackle medium, although the cracks do seem a little bit different. They're like longer. If you want more like a webbed one, I think the crackle medium does that better, but still it was absolutely beautiful. So now we're doing the makeshift binder, like we're binding the edge of the book here. I just put some masking tape on one side, squeezed the edge together. We're applying the hot glue in a zigzag pattern so we get all of our pages, and then we're squishing it down and sealing it up with the masking tape, and it worked perfectly. I also just took all the pages that I cut and put them, you know, I chose to break them in half just visually by eye. I didn't count the pages or anything. I just did the best I could, took a guess what looked like an even break. And then I disconnected the two, you can see the two like cardboard pages there. We're going to work with those later. Right now, I'm just going to glue those pages down on the inside of the book with some hot glue. Next, using a glue stick, it's just a Dollar Tree glue stick, I am gluing down these images. They are so beautiful. I found them under scrapbook Christmas paper on Temu. They were very cheap. I wish I could remember, but I won't buy it unless it's cheaper than a Dollar Tree. So these were worth it. They came in a very generous set, and I chose some pretty prints. I cut them in half. They're actually supposed to be book pages, so it made it pretty simple and they fit perfectly. But you can also print these up online. I will leave a link down below where you can find lots of vintage prints on clip art. So if you don't have the Temu one, you can use that. And now I'm taking my antique wax and I'm just going to go about antiquing this whole book. So we antiqued the edge of those hard pages. Now we're doing the paper little pages, and next we'll do the book cover. So I wanted to show you how nice and smooth the acrylic paint came out instead of the chalk paint. I actually love this method more. As far as the crackle effect, I always use chalk paint and it comes up really thick and it has streaks. It's still beautiful, but I think if you want a smooth, thinner coat on the top with crackles, go for the acrylic paint. So now I'm using a metallic paint. It's like a copper color. I didn't have gold. I really want to use gold, so I'm going to go ahead and buy gold next time I see it and go over the brass just to add some more metallic look, but for now it came out very pretty. Next, we're going to use Mod Podge, and we are definitely going to be sealing this little book up quite a bit because I am going to keep this guy forever. So I do 2 coats of Mod Podge on the pages right here, and it is, because it's very lightweight, it is hard to keep it, you know, from wiggling. So I ended up using that little scoring tool just to hold it. You could use tweezers or anything, a pencil, just something. I'm letting you know it kind of slides around. It's hard. And here comes our second coat. Next, I'm taking this really pretty dainty glitter that I found on Amazon, and I'm just going to apply it around the edges of this book and down the seam a little bit. So I have said before I don't like glitter. That's a blanket statement, and I should probably clarify. I don't like the dime store glitter, the way it's applied. There's too much. It doesn't stay on, so it gets all over the place. When you buy, you know, something with glitter on from Hobby Lobby, for example, the glitter doesn't come off all over the place. That's why I don't like the glitter in the Dollar Tree. I also think they're heavy-handed unnecessarily, and I have spoken about this before on my channel, that it is suffocating our sea life. So if we're not applying it routinely out of a factory, and then half of the people who buy the items sand it off, put it down the sink or whatever, or they don't want it, you're going to contribute more to the problem environmentally. So it's better to leave it off and let people who want it apply it, because they'll do that and they won't sand it off and put, you know what I mean? It kind of prevents, hopefully, or slows down the problem. And I always have to mention that because I just feel so bad for our sea life. So I Mod Podged the book cover. The whole book is Mod Podged. I absolutely love the way this came out. Keeping this forever. Would love to know what you guys think. For this project, I'm using these square signs from the Dollar Tree, and I really wanted to use a stencil, so I ended up having to cut one in half. And it's easy to do. You just take a utility knife and score it and then snap it, and it snaps apart. And then I'm using some hot glue just to start this off with gluing it together. Then I'm going to scrape any residual hot glue off. And I am going to use craft sticks for this one. I'm not planning on hanging this one. This is going to be one that I lean on one of my tables against the wall. You can put a hanger on it if you want. I am using some spackling to fill in the holes. I found I had really good luck using a spatula, that little metal tool, any flat thing. It actually, look at that, the holes totally disappeared on this one. You couldn't see them. So the finger definitely leaves a little bit of an indentation. If that doesn't bother you, that's fine. But I was trying to get rid of the holes. That's why I was putting the spackling in there. So that helped a lot. I went ahead and ended up putting more craft sticks on the back of this because as soon as I painted it and it got wet, it kind of started to bend and warp a little bit as it dried. And if you put craft sticks on the back or painter sticks, you can stop that from happening. I also put some craft sticks behind the spackling so the spackling wouldn't fall out. And then I gave it a second coat of acrylic paint. This is just apple barrel acrylic paint. Now, because we have that line in the board already, I had no choice but to go ahead and score this like shiplap all the way across so that it matches. So I'm just using a utility knife now, and I'm going over about 3 to 4 times, not enough to break the board, just enough to get a deep groove so that it matches our other deep groove and we have some cohesiveness. Next, I'm tracing out this stencil. This was a really good deal. You got about 10 of these, I think, for maybe $10. It was like $1 each. They're big, from Temu, and I went ahead and used permanent marker. Now, I did start off with paint and it was a hot mess. I even have a, what is it, spray-on adhesive? Still a hot mess. I'll tell you, whoever invented the silk stencils, the silk screens that stick down and they're sticky, genius. But I went ahead and used ink because in vintage signs they used to use paint or ink, so either one will do. So I just used the permanent Sharpie markers, and I did find that if I just swept them in one direction, the tip of them didn't get ruined from the paint. Now, someone came on years ago and told me if you put Mod Podge on the sign and you use the Sharpies over that, it won't dry out and ruin your marker, but I didn't want to put Mod Podge on the sign at all because I thought that would kind of take away from the vintage look. So I just kept wiping it off with a baby wipe, the tip of it, and then going back, and it seemed to work. Now here's a little hack that you can use when it still bleeds even with a marker. You just take a craft knife and you literally scrape and shape the letters however you want. This sign actually took me about 4 hours to do because I really wanted to make a nice one. I used to have a bunch of these, but when I moved, I gave them all away, so I have to make a few more. So you can see up there where it says authentic, I actually scratched the entire E off because it wasn't coming out right. So you can just, you know, I'm showing you up close how I'm changing the letters. So if you do see that one's thick or looks yucky or whatever, don't panic. Just take a little knife and gently scrape it off. And before I forget to mention, I was holding down the stencil with like a scoring tool in the corners where it had bent. Unfortunately, I bent it when I washed off the paint after trying to stencil, and it was an epic fail. So I had ruined some of the corners. In fact, one of the stencils that came from Temu was actually so bent I couldn't use it, which reminds me, some people come on and ask me, you know, how is my financial information? They're scared to buy from Temu because they're worried that their information will be stolen. I don't know where that's coming from, but they do take PayPal. That's how I pay. And PayPal was designed to protect you from the merchant. They don't have any access to your bank information. PayPal pays them, and it's like a privacy screen between you and the merchant, so that's how I pay. They also do free returns, and often, very often, they don't make you return anything. They've been really amazing that way, so I just thought I should let everybody know, because they do have some really wonderful cheap craft supplies. And I've also heard people say, oh, well, you know, it's all from China. And I thought, well, everything's made in China. I'm sure some of these suppliers supply Dollar Tree, and I know for sure they're on Amazon, because I have seen duplicate products before. So people are either buying them and drop shipping, or it's the actual merchants that are selling on Temu are also selling on Amazon. So, you know, you don't have to buy everything there, but you know, there's some very good deals, and they're worth checking out occasionally for craft supplies for sure. And I'm not sponsored by Temu. This video isn't sponsored. I just thought I'd get it out there because I get a lot of questions, and I thought I'd clear some things up. So I am taking some white paint and dry brushing. I'm going over the words for sure, in case you missed that, just so that they look distressed and old, because this is supposed to be a vintage sign. But when I was all done, I really felt like it was missing something, so I wanted to add some little accent on there, or something that just made it look more Christmassy and vintage. So I'm taking this darker green paint that I found in the apple barrel section. It's kind of like a dark winter green. I forgot what it's called, but they have their traditional green, and they have some really dark, beautiful, like pine greens. So took a wet wipe, stained these paint sticks. I get these paint sticks from Amazon. I buy them because they don't have that weird little edge on the end that you have to cut off. They're a little tiny thinner, but I prefer having the full length of the paint stick to work with. The link again is down below in my description box. And now I'm using the antique wax to distress the edges a little bit. We're going to give this a really good blow dry for our next step, and then we're just going to take our hot glue gun and start making these little squiggly lines. I did this 3 years ago on my channel for Easter, and a couple times since. It is an absolutely fantastic way to do like a faux vintage or a faux border, and it's a lot easier, less toxic than like an epoxy pour, easier than a clay mold or squirting your hot glue into like a silicone mold. And a lot of people, it's really cute, that's what I was going to finish saying, they come on and they'll say, I can't do that, my hand would be so unsteady. Well, if you look up close, it's a hot mess with me too. But I promise you, you can fix it. So you can see I'm doing it right here. You just take a craft knife and you take off whatever you really don't like. You can even cut the lines in the middle. I took one part of the line out there because I'm going to redo it. And you just keep redoing it. Even if it looks messy, I promise you when you're all done, it looks beautiful. It's just one of those things. So I went ahead and touched it up with some green paint, and now we're doing the magic. We're doing the dry brushing, which brings out all of these designs. Look at that. To me, that is so gorgeous for what it is right there. That looks like a piece of metal or oxidized, you know. There's one of the metals that's either bronze or copper. Someone comment down below, but it oxidizes like a greenish color like this, bluish green. This just reminded me of metal. Speaking of, you could use a metallic paint to make this an actual metal, like a metal bar on top of the sign, but either way, I love this accent. I think it really made this piece. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, but that's it. We just finished it off and we're all done. For this project, I got 3 of these ornaments from Walmart on 90% off. It's a great time to get Christmas ornaments when they're already done with their big 75% off sale. You go through a big bin and you kind of have to dig and search, but I think these were about 20 cents each. So this is also a great DIY for my international viewers as well, or anyone who isn't by a good Dollar Tree, because you literally just have to find some festive looking material around your house and some cotton balls and some tall stand and you're good to go. So I start off by cutting off the bottom of these little Christmas trees here, including the one with the felt right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take some hot glue and glue them together. And you can make these, I only had 3 of these all together because that's all I could find in the bin, but you certainly could make 4 or 5 of these and make a taller tree. And I'm taking a Dollar Tree skewer. You don't have to have a Dollar Tree skewer. It can be any stick that has a point on the end. And I'm just putting it up the center. Now I did make a mistake and cut the bottom off. So I'm going to tell you that and show you that. Make sure you don't do that. See, I'm breaking it off prematurely here. And then I end up, well, I glue the little stick on from some branches that I got off of Amazon. These are actually very pretty. There's a big bag you can get on Amazon. The link is down below in my description box. But I ended up having to put a second skewer up there. It made it more secure so it wasn't the end of the world, but you do need that brace on the back of this little tree to hold it up. So I'm just using some hot glue to glue it on the back of this stem. I'm going to get some Excelsior grass, and that, someone told me that's like shredded wood. I don't know if that's true, but it's really neat. You kind of crunch it up and shape it. The link is down below in my description box if you want to know which one I used. And I just added some glue in the middle, and then I'm going to grab my little tree, stick it down there. And if you don't know where the description box is, just look for the word more, and you're going to click that, and a drop-down menu will appear underneath my video, and that's where you find all the goodies. So here's some snowflakes from Dollar Tree. They're already sticky, so I just stuck it on the top of this tree, and that's it. You have a super tall and elegant Christmas tree that costs pennies on the dollar. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and as always, until the next one, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.